Jamal Adams reminded the football world last Sunday that he's still a complete player in his first full game of action since suffering a knee injury well over a year ago, as well as reestablish the value he can still bring a defense. Hey guys, Griff here. Jamal's finally back. He was officially back 2 weeks ago, but as we all know, he suffered a unfortunate and somewhat unlucky concussion, like on the first drive against the Giants. He looked kind of okay. Well, he flashed a lot, a little. Well, he flashed as much as someone can flash in 9 snaps uh, last week against the Giants. However, we finally got him for a full game, full complete game this week against the Bengals. Thought he played really well. Most importantly, athletically, he seems intact. The change of direction was there. The reactiveness, the confidence in his game. He didn't seem like he was worried about his knee at all. There might be some long speed considerations there. He wasn't really tested in that department, so we may not know. But it was cool seeing him fly around and hit. And he didn't just come out of the game okay. We can see the value that he brings the Seahawks defense, how Clint Hurt wants to use him, how Carl Scott wants to use him. And he was a contributor to them holding the Bengals to 17 points a week removed from the Bengals torching the Cardinals. So the Seahawks have a very talented defense, and he is part of that. He's a cog in the machine. He's a reason why he is a reason why they're going to continue to get better, I think, and he was a huge reason why they played so well against the Bengals. So we're going to get into the tape and see all of basically how we did run pass coverage and blitzing. So this first play, it's also the first play of the game. He's down here in the slot. He has a seam. The Seahawks are in cover 3. He has a seam match on looks like the number 2 receiver. I think that's a tight end. Seahawks are in nickel. It's a run play though, so let's look at the box count. There are 5 blockers, 6 gaps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blockers presenting 6 gaps. Seahawks are in cover 3, so that means they're going to have a loaded box. So for every gap that is formed by the offense, they'll have a defender. So sure enough, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 primary defenders. But that can change when the offense motions people. So they motion the number 1 eligible receiver, who's a tight end, into the box. And then you can see Jamal trying to communicate that the linebackers need to bump over. Now, they don't know if he's running a jet or if he's going to be part of the blocking scheme, but they still need to bump with it. So everyone basically needs to gain a gap over. So Brooks, who is the pre-snap A-gap player, he becomes the B-gap player, and then to the bubble side. And then Bobby needs to key this guy and basically fit. If he inserts, he'd need to fit him with outside leverage. If he runs outside and Nwosu spills, he'd need to fit well again with outside leverage. He becomes the new force defender. But as we can see, this was Jordan Brooks' only real blemish in the game, I thought. Brooks doesn't bump with it. He gets kind of caught backside and he's in the A-gap. That's supposed to be Jamal's gap. Jamal is motioned into the fit and he's the A-gap player. But instead, I'll just let the tape run through. He overlaps, corrects Jordan, and makes a tackle for about 4 or 5 yards. This could have been an explosive run. We'll look at it from the end zone angle. So you can see here, C gap, B gap, A gap, A gap, B gap, C gap. So they're gapped out. It's simple. Just play your gap. But it's not as simple when the gaps change. So this guy's pulling everyone over. You got to pull the chain. The whole second level has to gain a gap from the offense's perspective, from the right to the left. Jamal is looking to insert in here, but Jordan is still back here. So he's looking to overlap, which is really good on the fly play from Jamal. His speed in the box to scrape over in time is one impressive, but then by the time he gets there, he's able to stay relatively square and make a good form tackle and brings him down, like he doesn't get dragged or anything. So I mean, his fundamentals as a player, his movement in the box is really impressive for a guy that's 215. I mean, he hits like a linebacker, so he tackles like a linebacker. So it's good to see that the very first play of the game, I mean, he's providing literal impact. He's stopping what could have been a 10-yard run or greater. So it's just good to see that. On this next play, I think the Seahawks are playing with their coverages. It looks like it's half quarter pre-snap, where they're playing cover 2 to this side and then quarters on the backside, but they're actually playing cover 3 sky, cover 3 weak sky. So Jamal looks like pre-snap he's playing a quarter, but he's actually going to come down and be the weak flat defender. But nevertheless, he's still coming from depth. Let's just roll the play and watch what he does here. So he's making a great play on the screen. What's impressive about this is one, I mean, you've got two 300-pounders out in space right here. There's no way a safety is supposed to make this play. And he does. He's able to split both of them and get in there and make the tackle. So two blockers form three gaps. 1, 2, 3. There's only two defenders. So his primary job is to turn the ball back, force the ball back. Jordan has to play the inside gap. But Jamal ends up being a 2-for-1 player. He sets up the outside tackle, gets him to expand, and then he's able to really subtly then work inside and make the tackle himself. So that's really a hero play. This play should go for a lot of yards. The Seahawks have had a lot of screen issues, not so much this year. Jordan's been playing that well on the backside. In this instance, though, it's Jamal who's primarily responsible, and he makes a heck of a play coming from depth. This is a call that's supposed to hurt. This is an offensive play call that is supposed to hurt what the Seahawks are in, and he makes a difference. I mean, that's tangible difference making right there. The other thing that's impressive about this, it's not that impressive, but it's a general indicator of just how on top of Jamal is. So he's the weak flat defender. His primary pass key is going to be the running back in the flat because there's not a slot to this side. So Tariq Woolen has all of the weak number 1 receiver, the isolated receiver. He initially goes, the running back initially goes to block, and that's his responsibility. So because of that, Jamal opens to the passing strength and is looking to help on any potential crosser because he doesn't have a weak flat threat. So I think the fact that he opens, it just shows that he's understanding like what his rule is. And this seems simple, but Ryan Neal, even though I really like him as a player, he busted a lot of stuff with when they were in cover 3 and he was the weak flat defender when they were 4 strong or 3 strong and the running back was blocking. He didn't look to overlap to the front side. So the fact that Jamal immediately in his first opportunity is showing that he just knows exactly what his rule is really impressive. And then he has the awareness to recognize that the guard is leaving and he has to go get outside leverage on him. And then instead of even doing his primary job, he's able to kind of improvise and make an impact play. So he's playing within the framework of his assignment, but then doing something extra to actually change Seattle's fortune in that play. So it's just really good signs so far. He's a really fundamentally sound, capable player with really cool movement skills in the short area. I think that's what makes him special. This was another impact play that he had. This was toward the end of the game to get the Seahawks off the field to set their offense up to go try to win the game, which of course really didn't, but the defense was being clutch. So at the bottom of the screen, they're finally playing, they're actually playing their cover or half quarters. So cover 2 to the bottom, cover 2 match. It looks kind of like quarters, but it's not because Tariq doesn't have an immediate flat threat. So he's kind of playing a sinking cloud corner. And then quarters backside. Jamal is aligned as what the Seahawks call the jack, which is basically the weak side linebacker. So they're in dime here. And I mean, the long and short of it is that he makes a great tackle, right? But what is particularly impressive about it is that he's triggering so quickly. He understands that by the time quarterback Joe Burrow is opening to this side, he knows that the ball isn't getting passed deep because he understands what the concept is. The only one left in the structure of the play is the running back. So he knows that by the time he's opened this way, before he's even released the ball, he's triggering because he knows at that point the structure of the play is exhausted. So either he's going to throw this or he's going to scramble or try to reset and make something happen inside the pocket. So he's really quick to this. I mean, as making tackles in the flat isn't necessarily that involved, but he helps himself be as efficient in doing that as possible, I think. So he expands out, and then as soon as Joe is starting to turn his shoulders to the flat, Jamal's already going. And then he has great hip tracking, tracking the outside hip, makes a great tackle, near hip, near shoulder, takes him to the ground, just like the way the Seahawks coach it. This is a better angle. And this isn't nothing. How many times have the Seahawks had good sound defense at the second, third level, and then they're not able to tackle the check down in the flat? Kobe Bryant, I thought, had pretty good coverage at the second level, and then when he the positive effect of good coverage at the second level is you force the quarterback to check the ball down, then he goes and misses the tackle in the flat. Not of an effort issue. It's hard to make those tackles coming from depth. Um, Jamal does this like it's nothing. Again, it's Artie Burns against the Panthers. They had the Panthers dead to rights a handful of times, and I think he's coming down, he's flying down like Jamal is, but then he breaks down right here and freezes, and then he's not actually able to close. Jamal's confidence once he breaks down and triggers is really impressive. He knows he's just a really fundamentally sound football player. The stuff that is kind of universal to the sport, I think. So it's him coming downhill. I mean, he's a terror. Here he is in coverage. Now he's the deep middle safety. Even of the things that he does do well in coverage, you're not really thinking of him as a rangy deep middle safety, but the Seahawks will spin digs down and Jamal deep a little bit. And I think he's actually really efficient with his footwork in doing this. And he's part of what informs his play or what allows him to be efficient is that he's always trying to be ahead of the play, like he was on that previous example. Um, Here he's his primary responsibility is going to be helping on threes. So he's pretty much helping for the number 3 to the number 2. That's counting them outside in 1, 2, 3. So he immediately melts with 3, but then he sees Joe Burrow, the quarterback, with his shoulders and eyes locked on 3. So he just triggers right away. And then he's running a really flat path too. So it's not rounded. He's not giving a lot of space to it. So he's constricting this throw, and between him and Devin Witherspoon, they have really excellent top-down coverage on a fairly bang intermediate throw. Like this isn't like a 30-40 yarder. This is coming at about this is really hitting at like 15, 18 yards, and he's right on top of it. Had that ball been higher and not hit Devin in the back of the helmet, I mean, Jamal's squaring that up and maybe potentially lacerating a kidney. Hopefully not. But he's probably jarring that ball loose. It would be a really tough catch for Jamar Chase if Burrow put more on that ball. And then also good coverage from Devin, by the way, because Devin works to his leverage help. He's kind of able to undercut that because he knows he has top over the help over the top, and Jamal's right there. I think Jamal constricts this as much as a free safety could right there, given the how quick it develops. And it's not just his speed, but it's him like knowing what's happening. Like he's 3-2. He opens on 3. He's playing 3 really aggressively with his hips. He's not square to the line of scrimmage. As soon as he hits his back foot, Jamal's gone and trying to help make a play. So they'll need to spin him deep a little bit here and there, and I think he handles that really well. All right, here's a play that isn't necessarily his play, but I think it just shows again like his value. So the Bengals are in a duo formation. They could run power here or counter rather, but they don't. They run duo, and that means the way the Seahawks align themselves, you're going to have to put your strong safety on the line of scrimmage. And that's not for Seattle. That's given that he's going to be going up against tight ends and receivers. I mean that's a huge advantage to the Seahawks. So again, this is Jarran Reed and Jordan Brooks' play. But if that ball bounced to the front side to where if the ball was spilled, it would bounce this way. I mean the tight end has no chance. He's right there. He doesn't just get penetration, but then once he gets penetration, he stays square. So he's playing aggressive but controlled, and this will add up to negative plays in the Seahawks' favor. Had that ball bounced, had there not been space here to try to punch it, and he bounces this way, I mean Jamal's right there. So if it wasn't going to be Jordan's play, it was going to be Jamal's. So again, it's little things adding up that in time, if you're consistent with that, eventually those plays will become your plays, or rather the other players' plays. So we're primarily just looking for indicators and signs that Jamal is how functional he is, how impactful he is, and these are examples where he'll have impact um, in time. So then here he's part of the pressure. They've got a slot pressure. Um, the running back has to pick him up, and while the ball gets out and they convert the first down here, I think this is a 2nd and 3. Um, we're just able to see his movement skills on display. They're still there. What makes him a special blitzer? I mean, he is a special blitzer, but he's still 215 pounds. We're talking about trying to get him free and or one on one with the back, and he gives him a little hesitation inside move and dips and rips really like a pass rusher and then gets flat. So not a lot of running backs can handle him. While he doesn't impact the play, if you were on the flip side of this and you're a Bengals fan, this would not be a good rep for the Bengals running back. Um, so in time, we're going to see a lot more of these plays where he's impacting the quarterback, and he did the same to Daniel Jones. He hurried him once or twice, getting into the backfield. So the fact that you can just get into this at any point, just by virtue of him being down in the box as a slot defender, really, um, it's just another weapon in Clint Hurt's arsenal that he can employ whenever he feels like he needs to against certain formations or if it just feels right. Um, Especially useful on second down. That's a theme that Maddie and I will be talking about more. Um, how their second downs have improved so much, even when earlier in the season when nothing was going right, their second downs were actually really good. When in past years they haven't been, even when the overall picture is good, the second downs have been relatively worse than their first down and third down performance. Um, what Clinner's been doing on second downs has been really impressive, and Jamal will continue to be a huge part of that as well. Um, all right, where are we at on this next play? Okay, so again, I'm not going to pass this off as some special play, but it's another indicator that Jamal here he is the weak flat, that he just understands what's going on and he knows what he's doing. And snap after snap of good spot dropping will eventually lead to impact plays. I think that's the values of consistent spot dropping. And spot dropping is important. So they're in cover 3. The Seahawks are spot dropping this completely. They have a trips formation, but they're not asking Bobby to handle a final 3 receiver bending back across the formation. Um, and we can kind of see that could be a problem. He's nailing down on this shallow route, and this over route goes right over the top of him. So they're not asking Bobby to man turn to that. However, Jamal's primary responsibility is the weak back. So he's chip releasing. So because he's chip releasing and he's not releasing quickly, he's thinking, okay, I need to be prepared because it's not split flow technically, even though there's 3 on one side and 2 receivers on the other side. Because he's not releasing quickly, J Jamal knows he has to be able to help for anything that's crossing back. Now, Bobby takes this anyway, but had Bobby not, had they matched this how they normally do, where Bobby's turning and running with this receiver right there, Jamal's playing 2 routes on a third down. He'd be situated for this. He's opening to this route. He's able to play that window, and then he's also maintaining his width for the running back and not keeping his eyes on the running back. He's not losing the running back when he could have, reading that he was initially blocking. So again, not a crazy play. It's just kind of standard stuff, but it's standard smart stuff that matters. It's stuff that if you don't play this as tightly and there isn't pressure here and Joe drops it off, him being a step late could mean he misses this tackle and they convert, or him being too aggressive on the running back means this receiver catches the ball, and between him and Bobby, they're not able to constrict the tackle. He catches it at the 30 and he juts up for 2 more yards and they convert. So it's little stuff like that, um, taking the air out of the tight spaces, making the tight spaces even tighter. That makes for good cover 3 and defending all 3 levels. Um, so yeah, here's one last play. Kinda showing the same thing as the last one where it's not necessarily particularly impressive, but it just shows that he knows what he's doing out in the field. They're playing, what are they playing here? Quarters. They're playing quarters at the bottom. Might be palms specifically, but up top, so what's important here is that normally or often, Well, against empty, when you're playing quarters backside and you're on the opposite side of a three receiver side, so Jordan's a quarter safety. Normally, the weak quarter safety poaches or provides help on the front side, but because there are two receivers backside, you can't really do that. You have to be able to play 2 to 1 here. So that means Quandre Diggs is going to have to play 3 to 2. So either Quandre is primarily responsible for three, or Bobby would be. So the point is that some combination of these two players are closing off the middle of the field, and Jamal isn't. But what I like about this play is that he quickly reads 1 and 2, eliminate the chance of them being vertical. So none of them run vertical. These two at the bottom. And as soon as he reads that they're breaking in or breaking under, he immediately opens and helps to provide overlap to the front side. Then he sees the ball come out and it's moot. But the point is that he's not responsible for anything happening on this side. They're playing true split field. So what they're actually doing is Bobby's carrying three, but then falling off to play the dig. That's a good drop by Bobby. And Quandre is primarily responsible for three, but this is Jamal realizing that, hey, my primary responsibilities have eliminated themselves. So I'm going to help front side and provide overlap and see what I can do there. Because if one of these leak back and bend back really strong, he's there. So it's just an indicator of him generally just knowing what's happening, being sharp, staying on top of things. And that was the theme the whole game. I mean, he made his impact plays, but then he also showed that, like, he just knows what he's doing. And that's been a criticism of him at times. I think he's been faulted for things that are just genuinely not his fault. And some of them certainly have been, but this was a game where he was on his P's and Q's the whole way. He played physically well, I think. He played confidently. I don't think the injury is lingering in his mind at all. At least he didn't play that way. He didn't show it. And then he provided value. He made them better. So hopefully we see more of it. And hopefully he just continues to be a big piece of them getting on track defensively.